Namaste and good evening, everyone. I, Ritika Gupta, Assistant Director at IMPRI Impact and Policy Research Institute, Prabhav Evam Niti Anusandhan Sansthan, Nai Delhi, extend my heartiest welcome to you all to this hashtag Web Policy Talk. We are here for a special lecture by Professor Manoranjan on uses and abuses of statistics as part of the series, The State of Statistics, hashtag Data Discourses. I now invite Ms. Anshula Mehta, who is Assistant Director at IMPRI, to introduce our distinguished participants further. Anshula, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ritika. It's my privilege to introduce our eminent panelists for today. Our speaker for today is Professor Manoranjan Pal. He was formerly professor at the Economic Research Unit at the Indian Statistical Institute, ISI Kolkata. He was also the head of the unit from 2012 to 2014 and also professor in charge of the Social Sciences Division at ISI from 2014 to 2016. He was formerly member secretary at the International Statistical Education Center, Kolkata for over 10 years. He holds a PhD and MStat from ISI Kolkata as well. Professor Pal's research work is currently focused on measurement of poverty, inequality, and segregation, applied econometrics, measurement of status of health and nutrition, gender bias and empowerment of women, among others. He has contributed to more than 100 published papers and over 10 books. He has led several research projects at ISI for different organizations, including the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, Government of India, and the West Bengal Finance Corporation. And he has a teaching experience of over 30 years. So we are grateful to have you with us today for this pertinent lecture. Our moderator for today is Professor Utpal, who is Professor of Economics at the Northeastern Hill University, NEHU, Shillong, and visiting fellow at IMPRI. We also have with us as a discussant Professor Gour Gobinda Goswami, who is professor in the Department of Economics at the School of Business and Economics and also Director of Student Affairs at North South University, Dhaka, Bangladesh. Thank you to all our panelists for joining us today and welcome to the discussion. With that, I hand it over to Professor Utpal to take it forward. Thank you.
So, no need to have any more discussion or introduction here. Already Anshula has given a good introduction. So actually this is a part of the series that under IMPRI's eco-development discussion we had started on various aspects of the South Asian countries during the COVID period. That what are different sectors of the economies of South Asian countries like Sri Lanka, India, Bangladesh, so Myanmar, like this, even Bhutan, Nepal. So how they are affected due to the COVID-19 phenomenon that lasts over 1 year, which is still continuing, and what are the steps taken by different governments as a policy measures in order to rescue those economies, to bring back on the path of the development, what are the loopholes and how to give newer policy guidelines for the rectification and corrective measures that can be taken. So this was a basic idea. So we had first covered that agricultural issues or rural development in Bangladesh also. 2-3 lectures on that from Rajshahi University, Professor Elias Hossain, then some other teachers, even from Professor Prasanto Banerjee on the financial inclusion aspects and so on. So needless to elaborate all these things. So many such discussions happened. Then on the trade aspects we did. So on applied side, we have covered on environmental issues, on the climate change and so on. So on Indian aspects also a few lectures we had. So today it is a little bit of different on the methodological aspects, and we are very fortunate to have Professor Pal, and who is very methodical and vast. He has a vast knowledge in doing research and teaching in that line. So, so in that context only, this is another part of the lecture series that Professor, we are fortunate to have our Professor Pal, who will deliver on the on this use and abuse of the statistics. Use of statistics, I think all of you know, so there is no need to repeat it again, that how the data over time changes, across the community changes, depending on many other aspects, how we can correlate, how it can be used for the policy formulations for that will be helpful for the welfare of the people. So these are the motto for which the data is used. But while doing the analysis or while collecting the information, so many mistakes happen, and some hindrances are there that we face. And after collection of the information also in the for the analytical purpose, the method we use, many a times we commit many mistakes, and knowingly or unknowingly. As for example, that in basic statistics Gujarati, when we teach that at one place it comes that when income rises, consumption rises, so a positive relation like that. So suddenly you find that the kangaroo population of Australia increased and Indian population all increased. So there is a positive relation. So without knowing the underpinning that a human being in India never consume kangaroo importing from Australia. So that relation statistically you can establish that over time both are parallelly growing. So there must be some relation. So just a couple of days back, only I was taking one interview there. So there I was asking a question like this, that last 1 year during this COVID period, that both demand shrinked because people's purchasing capability has declined because source of income, employment has declined. Simultaneously, production also relatively declined because of the contraction of production activities owing to the out migration of the labors from the factories and so on. So, but why there is an inflation, that is rise in the prices and so much of booming of the Sensex in India? So the response came that no, sir, recently price or Sensex has gone down. So that means that looking at the 1 or 2 days figure, the person replied that it came down by 200 points or 300 points. But the general tendency, they forget that if everyday data you take, that last 7 or 8 months, there is a continuous increase, barring a few days where you get marginal decline. So which was before 8 months, it was 27 or 28,000 index, and now it is over 50,000. So it's a general rise, but the person does not have that basic conception that 1 or 2 days the marginal decline is a consistent rise in that out of the 365 days, if 5 days sudden decline, you cannot tell that is a decline. It's a consistent rise, we can say. That overall, in comparison to the previous year, to current year, there is an increase, and hefty increase, we can say, significant. So what is the level of increase, significance, how to interpret the data? Many a times these small things that we forget. There are many examples of such thing we can give. That one of that spurious regression is already there, that is involved in the methodological aspects, but many abuses we do. That from 1 year to another year, just from 5,000 to 11,000 one figure came, and so we tell that because of this policy this happened, but we ignore, or we forget to ignore the other side impacts or external factors for which it may have increased. If you exclude that, partially you judge, then policies might not have that impact or maybe minimum impact. So the embedded effects are there, many such things. So without knowing or without understanding, without properly taking care of those things, if we just use the data and on plain language, we just tell, as I said, a few examples, this is from common sense also, one can tell. So we can give a wrong interpretation of the data, and wrong outcome will come, wrong policies will be framed. So these are some abuses. Statistics is there, growth is there, from 2 rupees to 4 rupees happens, so 100% growth. So when from 0 to 1, so it is infinite rate of growth. It is like that type of thing. So one has to be very meticulous, methodical, and to understand the actual relationship among the variables. Otherwise, is a number of bricks increase, so population increase, it will be like that type of relation. So the many such aspects, we got a very knowledgeable person, as Ansula has introduced, because I have been acquainted with Professor Pal over more than 20, you can say 5 years. And he is like my teacher also, you can say. So I learned a lot from him in the for the analysis of the data in time series, cross-section for the analytical purposes, and the variations of work he has. He has a vast knowledge. He worked in the health economic field. He worked with the agriculture and climate change issues also. He has worked sometime. And poverty inequality is his pet subject. You can say so many projects of the government he has done. And until now, after retirement, he is still continuously engaged in teaching. So that is very few people get that motivation to do. I have seen he continuously take classes of some engineering colleges. Also, ISI still he is involved in teaching in the same economic research unit, and also continuous research. Even 2 days back, one of our paper came in EPW on that petrol pricing issues, where he was also with us. And another paper, that is the how the education and other of the fathers and mothers, they impact in a different manner on the nurturing of the children. That is in your Rajshahi University, that journal, International Journal of Statistical Sciences came a couple of weeks back. So many other such. So continuously we jointly work sometime. Rather, I get help from him, better to say. And with other research scholars also, or other faculty members of ISI, he continuously has been engaged in doing even after retirement. So it is not virtually retirement, only formal retirement you can say, but he is doing more work than earlier now, because some other reason. So no institutional, that official attachment is less. So he got more free time and doing more research rather. So I don't want to lengthen the topic. So I welcome the other members, Professor Goswami also from Bangladesh. I think some more will join from your country. And Dr. Arjun, thank you for giving me this opportunity to chair this session. Also, Dr. Simi, they are also good researchers, and other participants here. Now, I request Professor Pal to take the floor and give his lecture. So thank you all.
Thank you, Professor De, for such an elaborate introduction. I am still teaching in Indian Statistical Institute, as you have told. And I am also a professor of Techno India University.
Yeah.
And in fact, the COVID period was one of the busiest period in my life. So I utilized it almost fully at home. One more thing you said, that the Gujarati's book, the sixth edition of Gujarati's book is co-authored by me.
I forgot, sorry. Yeah. That recently came, you people can also go through. He has become the joint author of that Damodar Gujarati's econometrics book. Yeah.
Yes.
Please continue.
So let me start. So today's topic is uses and abuses of statistics. Let me start with the three famous quotes. The first quote is almost known by everybody. There are three kinds of lies: damn lies, and statistics. And this quote was given by Benjamin Disraeli, who was former Prime Minister of UK. Do you think this is true? Well, I do not think this to be true, because it depends on how you interpret data, how you apply the data. If you fail to apply the data correctly, then you may come up with false answers, okay? So, I mean, statistics should be used to illuminate something, okay? The second quote is from historian Andrew Lang. He was not only a historian, he was a Scottish poet, novelist, literary critic, and contributor to the field of anthropology. Some people use statistics as a drunk man uses lamppost for support rather than illumination. In fact, statistics should be used for illumination. And the last one is by Professor C.R. Rao. You see, when we talk about statistics without remembering the name of Professor Mohanovich and Professor C.R. Rao, it is very difficult to start. I just state a quotation. Statistics is the logic of all sciences and the decision making under uncertainty at individual and institutional levels. I was asked to address at an inaugural session of the workshop titled Gender Violence Against Women and Children on 9th February this year, organized by Economic Research Unit of Indian Statistical Institute. Naturally, I was looking at National Crime Record Bureau, that is NCRB statistics. According to the NCRB statistics, out of the 24,923 reported rape cases in the country during the year 2012, offenders were known to the victims in as many as in 24,470 cases, that is 98.2%. What should be the possible interpretation of the above data? One would be prone to interpret it as follows. Since 98.2% offenders were known to the victims, foreign tourists may feel relieved because they are not relatives of any of the Indians. Do you think this interpretation is okay? Well, I will not give you the answer. You will be able to find the answer yourself after my talk. It matters how you word the question. Do you agree that we need more open space for children to play freely? Women harassment is increasing day by day. Don't you agree with it? To find the opinion whether certain soap is effective in washing clothes, suppose we put questions, this brand is very much effective in washing clothes. Don't you think so? If you pose the questions like this, then it is very difficult to say no. Okay, these type of questions are called directed questions. One should avoid directed questions while collecting data. The approach of the investigator to the respondent is also crucial. The background, for example, presence of other persons during the interview also matters. It also depends on many other factors like the availability of time of the respondent, religious beliefs and social dictums, etc. But it is less known that the style of questions like should versus should not, is versus is not, etc. also matters in a significant manner. In fact, we did some experiment with this type of style of questions. We set 9 questions to get family-related views and 14 questions to get social views on different aspects of gender violence from adult males and females. There were 2 styles of questions giving opposite meaning. I just give one example. Type A, which may be called as affirmative question. Women have the right to express their opinion if they disagree with their partner. And the type B, which may be termed as negative questions. Women do not have the right to express their opinion if they disagree with their partner. Now, if you pose this question, you should not pose the question, both the questions to the same person. So the type A questions to some person, type B question to some person. In fact, we did so and got the results like this. In type A question, 49 out of 51 agreed to it and 2 disagreed. And in type B question, which is the opposite of type A, 36 disagreed and 16 agreed. And the significance level is 0.000. That is, it is very much significant. You see, if in type A questions 49% agrees, then in type B questions the same. The out of 52, about 49% should have disagreed, because disagree in type B is equivalent to agree in type A. So we would expect around 49% to disagree in type B, but it is not so. Okay, so, and we saw this type of pattern almost all the questions. Okay, and most of the questions were significant. Okay, the difference, there was significant difference between type A and type B. Another major source of deceptive statistics is the use of inappropriate methods of drawing sample and collecting data. Suppose to find the average height of people in North Kolkata, we take people who are visiting Dunlop supermarket in North Kolkata. Dunlop supermarket is very near to my place, and Dunlop supermarket area is full of Sikhs, and you know Sikhs are very tall. So you will encounter with many tall persons, naturally your average will be affected, okay? And this will not reflect the true picture of North Kolkata. Suppose a survey is conducted among the readers of a magazine, whether they like a certain political party to be in the power. The readers are told that they just fill the form and post it without disclosing their identity. Suppose more than 60% says yes. Does the opinion survey reflect the correct percentage? Of course, no. By random, we mean that every individual in the population has certain positive probability of coming in the sample, and this probability is known beforehand. And this magazine is catering to only high income group. So it is not a random sample from the whole population. Now you see the picture. In 2015, you see the price, and in 2015, you see the bar diagram. It shows the bar diagram of 2015 is almost double that of 2014. Price has increased a lot, and somebody points out that the price has increased a lot within 1 year after seeing the picture. But if you look at minutely, the price increased from 60 rupees 60 to 62 only. So the diagram is wrong, and we often encounter such a wrong diagram. The actual diagram should be like this, okay? And this is more accurate graph, and you see whether you can view it clearly whether it has increased or not. It has increased, of course, but whether it has increased very much or not. In 7 out of 10 persons said the product is very good. Sample size is 10 is very small. I mean, even if you get 70% saying very good, does not mean, I mean, it is a significant figure, because sample size is very small. So we must have a very large sample size to arrive at a conclusion. Okay, it can be statistically tested. This is a minor remark that if we give a very much precise number, that is also not called for. It's not desirable. At present, there are 19,36,201 people in this district. If somebody says that, it is better to say 1.9 million people, because it is only an estimate and the number is changing over time. we do not need such a precise numbers, okay? If we say 1.9 million, that is enough. It is not true that we always need sophisticated statistical techniques to solve a problem. Let me give you an example. This is a famous example. It's a solved case which was, in fact, some of the professors were involved in this case in ISI. Just after the independence of India, many people from Pakistan came to India. There was a very much exodus of people, and from India also to Pakistan. Now, there were camps, refugee camps set up by different states. In fact, I mean, the border states. In West Bengal also, there are many refugee camps, okay? And they were given free rice, pulses, etc. In fact, they were, in the beginning, they were cooked and served to them twice a day, okay? But the government somehow felt that the number of refugees were given by the contractors wrongly. I mean, it was an inflated one. So, government of West Bengal approached Indian Statistical Institute that you find the correct number of refugees. Some of the professors visited these sites. They measured all these things very correctly, how much rice is used, how much pulses is used, and what is the price, everything they measured, but they could not find any fault in that, okay? That is per person, the consumption, if you multiply with the number of person, you get the same as they are using, okay? But suddenly, one of the professors looked at the figure, salt figure, the amount of salt they use, and then they found that then, I mean, with the use of per person salt, they arrived at the correct number of refugees, and that number was much less than the number supplied by the contractor, okay? It is just an inventory method. I mean, the total number of persons divided by the amount of salt usually taken by each person. If you know that, you can find the number of persons, okay? So it is just an inventory method, and by that, the team of Indian Statistical Institute could find the correct answer, and it was later verified that it is so. Kerala can be proud compared to Uttar Pradesh because the number of gender violence is less in Kerala than in Uttar Pradesh. Do you agree? You see, Kerala is a very small state, okay? And it may be possible that the number of gender violence is smaller than that of Uttar Pradesh, okay? So what you should do? You should find out the number of violences per 1 lakh or per 1,000, okay, population. So it should be some kind of ratio or percentages, okay. So just by giving the total figure will not give you the correct picture. Now let us see this. I mean, we in India are very much, I mean, outside India, people know that in India there is a tremendous number of rapes. But if you go by actual data, you see in South Africa, there are 95.9 out of 1 lakh population who are raped. In USA, it is 27.3, in India, 1.8, Japan, 1.0. Of course, there is no uniform definition of rapes over countries, and rapes are always condemnable. I am not talking in favor of this, but the issue, one should go by figures, okay? I mean, in newspapers, there are all sensitive issues, okay? And one should protest about the rapes, of course, I mean, but one should also go by figures, okay? It is believed that there are a gross underreporting in many countries like India, but it cannot be so much underreporting. There is another concept which is misunderstood by people. That is the concept of inflation. I am just quoting it from Dr. K.C. Chakraborty, who was the Deputy Governor of Reserve Bank of India, and it was addressed by him in 2012. Okay. The concept of inflation is often misunderstood by people. If one claims that inflation has come down in the recent past, then the prices have not come down. The truth is simply that inflation is indicated as a percentage change. So even when this percent is declining, all it means is that the prices are rising, but rising at a slower rate. But they are still rising. The prices would come down only when the inflation becomes negative. We must interpret result correctly. I shall just give you some examples from the elementary statistics, okay, parameters. Mean depth of a river is 3 feet, so we can cross the river easily. I mean, this kind of conclusion may be wrong. I mean, the variation is not taken into consideration. I mean, the depth of the river in the middle of the river maybe as depth as say 20 feet or 25 feet. The average may be 3 feet. So it may be difficult to cross in that case. And also one should consider the velocity of its flow. Okay, even if it is 3 feet, if the velocity is too much, then it is very difficult to cross. Okay. So when you interpret something, you should see the associated things along with it, okay? That is relevant factors. Not considering other relevant factors may lead to wrong result. This is also, I mean, if you can get a wrong interpretation, if you do not see the relevant factors, okay? Now I shall give you another example. The income of household 1 is more than the income of household 2. So household 1 is in a better position. Do you think it is a correct statement? Of course, no. I mean, the household 1, the income may be more, but the number of persons in the household, that is household size, may be much higher than the household 2, okay? So you just cannot say that household 1 is in a better position. So the relevant factor is household sizes. Forget about the S category or S distribution. Even if you forget that, household size at least should be considered. Okay. I shall tell you a story. Once a person came late in the court. The judge asked, "How much time does it take to come to the court from your home?" The man replied, "Your Excellency, is it on foot or by bus or by taxi?" The judge replied, "Assume by bus." The man again asked, "Is it during rainy season or other seasons?" The judge said, "No, now it is not rainy season." The man again asked, is it during office hours or non-office hours or after 11 p.m. in the night? Like this, the man went on asking questions. But you see, all the three questions that the man asked are relevant, okay? But we should not go too far on relevant factors. Only the usual, I mean, there is something called the usual thing. Usual means there are many things which we take it for understood, okay? I mean, when we say something for the time concerned, I think the present time, okay? So you need not ask whether it is rainy season or summer season or some other season, okay? So there are some things which, even if it is not stated, it has to be understood, okay? So that is the concept of usual thing. The correlation between X and Y is 0.95. So there is linear relationship between X and Y. Now, one will be very much prone to say that there is linear relationship between X and Y. In fact, there may be linear relationship, but the relationship may be spurious. That is, there may be spurious correlation due to some other common factor, okay? Here the common factor is time. And if we eliminate time from both, then you will see that the correlation between these two will not be so much significantly greater than 0, okay? So it will come down. It will not be significant enough if we do so. There are many other examples. There is a high positive correlation between price index with the number of foreign tourists in India. Production of paddy in Assam may have high correlation with number of road accidents in Kolkata. In all these cases, time is coming as an intervening variable. That is the common factor between these two. And we should eliminate time to get the actual pictures, okay? We should not go to the unnecessary relation, first of all. I shall later give you some examples where the time, not only time, but there may be other things also which come as intervening factor, okay? Galton, what is the time now? Okay. Galton in 1989 studied the heights of sons compared to the heights of their fathers. So now it is 1642. I should skip some of these slides. Suppose the average height of adult males in the US is approximately 5 feet 10 inches. Suppose we study the relationship for all tall fathers, that is 6 feet 4 inches or taller than that. Will their sons be approximately of the same height or shorter, taller than the fathers on the average? The answer is shorter. Galton was very surprised, okay? He thought the sons would be at least as tall as their fathers due to better nutrition and health care. But he forgot the role of correlation, okay? These are happening because there is a correlation between the father height and son's height. Now I will skip some of these things. I just gave some examples to show that it is really like that, okay? One of my friends said, whenever I travel by air, I carry a bomb with me because it has been seen that the probability of 2 bombs in the same flight is very low. Now, if you carry a bomb, then you know that you are carrying a bomb. So the probability of AB is nothing but probability of B, because probability of A is equal to 1. Okay. So even if you assume to be independent, probability of AB equal to probability of A into probability of B, but probability of A is equal to 1 because you know that you are carrying a bomb. So the probability is 1. So this kind of misinterpretation one should avoid. It has been found that number of accidents is much less in the middle of the road than at the side of the road. This is a very, very famous example. So walking at the middle of the road is safer. Now, there is a very much, it is very much fallacious because the number of persons who walk by the middle of the road is very, very small. If there are 10 persons, out of which 3 of them face accidents, that is 30%. But by the side of the road, it is much less. Okay, so you should not go by numbers, you should go by ratios. Number of persons going by the middle of the road and number of persons of which the number of persons who are facing the accident. Okay, so always remember this. I will be asking some questions in the same line at the later stage. If you manipulate with the data, when it is highly likely that you will be caught, if you manipulate with data, then it is very highly likely that you will be caught. There are many consistency checks in the statistics. If you see the following example, there are 525 Hindus, 312 males, 470 married, 42 Hindu males, 147 married Hindus. Now, apparently in these figures, you don't see any fallacy, but it is wrong. These are wrong figures. I mean, if you calculate it statistically, that the number of non-Hindus, females unmarried, okay, then you will get a negative value, okay, and it can be calculated, and one will find negative value. So these figures are wrong. Now you see this example. I am talking about first example. Summation x equal to 100, summation x square equal to 900 and n. So if you take 10 observations and get summation x equal to 100 and summation x square equal to 900, then you are wrong. Your calculation is wrong. Data cannot be wrong. Your calculation is wrong. The xi values cannot be wrong. Summation xi, either summation xi equal to 100 is wrong or summation x square equal to 900 equal to wrong. How do I know about it? Because if you calculate variance, it will be negative, okay? And variance cannot be negative. Like this, there are many checks in statistics. The correlation coefficient must be in between -1 and +1. Variance must be greater than 0. Like this, there are many checks in statistics, okay? So, even if you manipulate, you are likely to be caught. And in fact, Mendel was also caught. In the empirical data, exactly fit with the, if the empirical data exactly fit with the model or almost entirely fit with the model, then the data is in doubt. Very high correlation is an indication of doubtful data. You see, when you toss a coin 10 times and if you get 10 times head, it may be possible, but unlikely. And if you toss 100 times and if you get 100 times head, this is almost impossible, okay? So if you do state that if you have got 100 times head while tossing 100 times, then I can tell you that your statement is wrong, okay? Mendel worked with 7 characteristics of pea plants: plant height, pot shape and color, seed shape and color, flower position and color. With seed color, he showed that when a yellow pea and a green pea were bred together, their offspring plant was always yellow. However, in the next generation of plants, the green peas reappeared at the ratio of 1:3. To explain this phenomena, Mendel coined the term recessive and dominant in reference to the certain traits. He published his work in 1866, demonstrating the actions of invisible factors, now called genes, in providing visible traits in predictable ways. While Mendel's law was found to be correct, but Fisher remarked on the data produced by Mendel as too good to be true. Fisher was very much, I mean, he could not be rude, okay? So he just remarked too good to be true. That means it is false. I mean, what Mendel did, he manipulated data, but what he was convinced that it is 1:3, but to prove that it is 1:3, he manipulated with the data, but again, he was caught. The correlation coefficient between IQ, frequency of visiting theater per month, and performance in the final examination for a group of students have been found to be 0.8, that is between IQ and result in the examination, 0.6, that is the correlation between IQ and final examination, performance in the final examination, and R23 is 0.24, that is the correlation between IQ and number of times visiting theaters. Now, if you see minutely, you see that R23 is 0.24. Given a large data set, the 0.24 may be statistically significant. What is your interpretation? If you visit theaters more, your result that is 2 3s. That is 3 is final examination and 2 is visiting theater more. So if you visit theater more, then your result will be improved because it is positive. Scientists were very much baffled. Okay, how is it possible? I mean, you are getting the number of visiting theater and result to be positively related. After looking at the data, they found one startling things, that the students with high IQ visited theater more often than low IQ students. Okay. So the result is due to their IQ, not for visiting theaters. Okay, because high IQ persons only visited theaters more. Now, how can we tackle such things? In statistics, there are ways to tackling this. This is called elimination of third factor. Okay, here the third factor is IQ. If you want to find the relation between the result in the examination and visiting theaters, then the third factor IQ should be eliminated from it. Okay, and there are ways to eliminate it from it. And if you use that formula, you can, that formula after eliminating the IQ is called the partial correlation coefficient. And if you calculate partial correlation coefficient, you will get the partial correlation coefficient between X2 and X3 to be negative. You can calculate it and see it yourself. We sometimes face paradoxical situations, though these situations may be correct. Let me give you an example. The rishi and the king, the chessboard fallacy. Once the king was very much pleased with rishi, who visited the king's palace. The king said, I am very much pleased with you. What offer will you take from me? The rishi at first refused to take anything, but at the insistence of the king, he gave one chessboard to the king and said, Maharaja, please give me 1 grain of rice on the first day and put a tick mark on the first cell of the 64 cells in the chessboard. On the second day, you give me 2 grains of rice and put a tick on the second cell. On the third day, it is just the double of what has been given on the second day and so on. So it is 1, 2, 4, 8. So every time the number of grains were double. And the king was very much pleased. He said, okay, there is no problem, okay? I shall give it. And he ordered the appropriate persons who is taking care of the grains, okay, to do so. After 15, 20 days, the person came to the king, Maharaja, I think there will be problem of the grain, that there will be a shortage of grain after some days. The king said, why? Oh, that is because the rishi is taking out the grains. You have ordered the rishi to give grains. The king was very much puzzled. It is really a paradoxical situation, but if you really calculate it, you will see that after 25 or 30 days, the number of grains will be so much that the world does not produce so much grain. And after 40 days, the weight of the grain will be more than the weight of the earth. Okay? So this is what it is. One has to accept it. Paradoxical situation may arise in statistics also, in probability. Since there are 365 days in a year, it is if somebody says it is very unlikely that birthday of at least a pair of students in a class of 50 students will fall on the same day, because only 50 students and there are 365 days. So how can they be common? Okay, the probability of 2 birthday be common, it should be very, very small, but it is not so. The probability of 2 birthday to be common is very high for large, I mean for 50 persons. I am giving you only the, the negation of this, that is probability of no matching, okay? If the probability of no matching for 50% is 0.029, then probability of matching will be 1 minus that, which is equal to 0.931, okay? 93% probability that there will be common birthday, at least between 2 of them. And if it is 100, you can see it is almost 1. It is 1 minus 0.00000003. Okay, almost 1. So this is the graph that I shown. Now this is the last example, that is Simpson's paradox. You see the number of survivors out of 400 patients. There are 2 hospitals, Hospital A and Hospital B. In both the hospitals, you can take it as COVID patients, okay? In both hospitals, 400 patients were admitted. In Hospital A, 300 survived. And in Hospital B, 320 survived. So in Hospital B, the percentage of survival is 75%. whereas in hospital B, the percentage of survival is 80. So hospital B is better, is not it? Everybody will agree to that. In fact, given this data, there is no other way. I mean, one has to conclude that the hospital B is better. There is a higher chance of survival. Now, suppose you are given some more data. You are given that in hospital A, 100 males were admitted, 200 females were admitted, and in hospital B, 278 males are admitted and 42 females are admitted. Now, if you are given this data, okay, so these 300 and 320, along with it, you are given this data. Can you say something? I will give you few seconds time to think about it. You see, given this data, you cannot say anything. Okay, the number of males, number of females will not give any clue to the answer. We should seek how many males were survived out of how many males, and how many females are survived among how many females. Only then we can answer it. And I am now giving the number of males and number of females, I mean, who survived, along with number of males and number of females admitted in hospital A and hospital B. Now you can see that 100 out of 100 males survived in hospital A, and 278 out of 350. Same data, only more information. You see, if you add 100 and 200, you will get 300. 300 by 400 is 75%. And if you add 278 and 42, it is 320. 320 by 400 is 80%. So the same data, you can see that, the same data. Now you see, if you go by males and females, among males, 100% survived in hospital A, 84.2% survived in hospital B. Among females, 66.7% survived in hospital A, and 60% survived in hospital B. So among males, percentage of survival is more in hospital A. Among females, percentage of survival is more in hospital A. So in both hospital, both the males and females, hospital A is better. But if you take both males and females together, okay, then hospital A is not better, hospital B better. Do you see that it is a paradoxical situation? I mean, it may look at paradoxical situation, but it is true. Your conclusion or interpretation may differ if you have more data. Always go for more data, and you may revise your interpretation, okay? It happens. I mean, it happens. I mean, we have seen in the previous case also the correlation coefficient between the number of theaters, visiting number of theaters visited by students and their results. Now, if you have data on the IQ, then you incorporate that data and see the partial correlation coefficient, you get the correct answer. Now we are incorporating the data of males and females. Now we are getting the opposite answer, that hospital A is better than hospital B. Okay, so always go for more information, but you should know how to use information in an appropriate manner. Okay, and interpret data accordingly. Thank you very much.
So it ended.
Yes.
It looks like that we are watching a cinema, and as if suddenly it stopped. Means we liked it to continue. So looking
So
very
my slides
simple.
are visible enough?
Yeah,
Okay.
very nice. And thank you very much for giving some lucid, illuminating presentations of the loopholes of the data uses, or what we call use, its benefit, how to use the data, and its abuses when wrongly collected, wrongly manipulated or calculated, and wrongly interpreted without considering many facts and figures. So you began with this, the question of the data collections, the affirmative, negative questions. So they are nicely you have quoted. Even in the environmental issues related, when we collect data, same type of issues we face, or rival preference, or any for the analysis of those things, market research, or human behaviors analysis. That is when we a person knows that we are watching what type of things he is consuming every day, then to fool us, they will choose the good things. So we can see that despite having low income, they are using better material. But when, if he does not know that somebody is watching and collecting information passively, so then he may go by his usual way or own way. So the results sometimes differ like that. Yeah, or if you see that I know that you are watching me, whether I am giving money to beggar or not, then I may give more. And if I know that nobody is watching, I may avoid giving money. So the human behavior also. So depending on that, how, so passive or directly, or many other things. Then a method of drawing sample also, you have given good example there. So it's a very beautiful, small and lucid example, but it has some in-depth meaning and in-depth requirement. These are very useful for the research purposes, those who use data. So with the diagrammatic presentations, and then you gave how the figures and other things. Commonly in TV lectures, politicians or other analysts, they say, no, price has gone down. It means inflation, when instead of 5 it came 4.9, there's a price gone down. Another price is increasing at the lower rate. So rightly you said, but nobody objects when people in that TV debate, they discuss all these things and they go by their own usual way. So the mentioning of the estimated figures by approximation, how it is, and data standardization for comparison that you have given, that for a small sample and a big sample, that proportions, how without standardization, if we compare how it gives a misleading interpretation. So those type of thing you have given. Similarly, using the average without the variability into consideration taking, or that household side example you have given. Then you have given the in respect of the probability also, how misconception happens, and when it is not properly manipulated, and then that partial correlation things or paradoxical situations, those all. And finally you ended with this giving the examples of the Simpson paradox, that happens, that it depends on the whom you are giving address or giving emphasis. If we give emphasis on the welfare of the or the recovery of the male, we can say that one hospital is better than the other. But if we consider a thrust is on the other sex, then we can say that instead of A, B will be the better. The overall something, or depends on the target of the people whom they are targeting. Depending on that, the conclusion should be made. So these are some few things, but these are very intuitive and very useful. Looks like that very simple, but I think it is very good. So I don't want to take again the long time. So I invite Professor Gour Gobinda Goswami to give his observations, and any queries if you have, please make, so that he can give more, because he has a lot more stocks, I know. Only because of paucity of time, already 5 o'clock, so we don't want to take long from him. Please, Gaur
Yeah.
Babu.
So how much time I am getting?
You do take 10-15 minutes, whatever you want.
So
No problem.
first of all, I would like to say thank you to Professor Manoranjan Pal, who is a very famous statistician. I would like to rate him as one of the top grading statisticians. It has been reflected from your nice, lucid presentation, very brief presentation, but it was very intuitive. Even though I am not a statistician, I am an econometrician by profession, and I'm an international economist, and econometrics is my secondary field. But it was really, really fascinating to listen to your presentation. I would also like to thank Professor Utpal De, who is the moderator of this session, and other people who are involved in it, Anshula Mehta, Dr. Simi Mehta, Arjun Kumar, and other participants. So I would like to, I did not have the chance to go through the whole presentation, and I will give you only few quick responses to your presentation, Professor Manoranjan Pal. So I have high regards for ISI because I'm also currently involved with a project with Dr. Shashwati Das. I don't know whether you know her, in another project. It's a children's happiness project, and few of your alumni were also my indirect teacher at University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. So in that context, I'm indirectly related to your institute. And first of all, I would like to congratulate you for your involvement in Gujarati's book, because this is a very popular book, and I also use that book in my undergraduate class. Even though at graduate level, I use other advanced books. By the current version of Gujarati and Porter, seems to be very, very latest. I don't know in which edition you co-authored with Gujarati, but it is a very, very useful book for econometrician all over the world.
Edition 6. Sixth edition came last year, few months back.
Yeah. It is a very interesting book, and very, very, you have also mentioned about C.R. Rao in your first part of the presentation. I was fortunate to spend few hours with C.R. Rao while I was in the United States. It's a very, very down-to-earth person. It is very difficult to understand in the very beginning that this is C.R. Rao. And we have studied Kramer Rao lower bound in econometrics. And I think we should be proud of Amartya Sen and C.R. Rao kind of people. I don't know whether he will be awarded with Nobel Prize in near future. In your presentation, Professor Pal, you mostly talked about some uses and abuses in statistics. And I liked it very much, especially for one reason. You have said that question is important, but it is also more important to understand the type of question and the way the question is formed, the way the survey is conducted. And I think in my practical life, when I conducted a qualitative survey in Borishal recently with young children of 12 years old, I have seen that even though I use participatory method, but they are not properly responding because they are talking to each other. They are not responding to the questions independently. So IID assumption does not work in the setup. Setup is also very important in the survey. So you have talked about inappropriate methods of drawing sample and collecting data, which is very, very useful in statistical analysis. You are talking about price, the range between 60 to 60%, 60 to 62, and you have shown these two graphs. and sometimes graphs may mislead us. And you have also talked about Kerala versus UP, and it is very interesting. The ratio form is more important than regular form of variable. So we have seen it in many of our econometric analysis. And you have introduced the Wikipedia example. So I liked it very much. It's not just rates, number of rates. You have to control for some other factors in counting your rate figure. Otherwise, the percentage does not make any sense. And in your analysis, you have talked about inflation. And as an economist, I would like to say that many of the spurious relation kind of things that we observe in statistical analysis is just not to use the proper variable. That means real variable versus nominal variables. I can give you one of my recent example. A few months back, I had the chance to review an article from a very top-ranking journal, and the author was using a model. Output is a function of gross capital formation and some other variables. Then I said, okay, gross capital formation, and the result is highly significant, statistically significant, and he was using a Cobb-Douglas production function. Output is a function of capital and labor. Then as a reviewer, I said, okay, your result is interesting, but I'm not quite sure whether your result is having spurious relationship. Can you deflate your result, deflate your gross capital formation by price index, and then run the same model again and see whether the result is still significant? If you can show me that it is still significant, then I will accept your result. Then I was waiting for a few months, but I could not get any response. And gradually I found that the paper is being accepted without even responding to my question. So this kind of abuses are going on all over the world, even in current world. But you are the people, statistician like Manoranjan Pal, you are the people who are working hard to detect this kind of irregularities. And you are rightly saying that it is very important to see, it's the same data. Very interestingly, you have presented the case of hospital data, male, female. So I think it is important how many dimensions of data we are actually using. Same data, but how many extension through different dimensions. So that is very important. I can give you one practical example. I was using a trade balance modeling estimation while I was in United States. And interestingly, I found that if I introduce trading partner as another dimension, most of the variables are becoming highly statistically significant. But if I just use regular trade balance model, none of the coefficients are statistically significant. And it's all about the asymptotic or large sample issues versus finite sample. And I think you are the statistician who are working hard to detect or resolve this kind of puzzle. You have rightly introduced, and in most of your presentation, one thing that I understood is two things. One is knowledge. As a statistician, how much knowledge we have to understand the nature of data or result. Second thing is ethics is also important. I think for every profession, there should be some ethical training. If we are a barber, we are in charge of shaping the hair. So we should know that we should only cut the hair, not the ear or nose. Okay. So similarly, as a statistician, when we use statistical significance, we should, first of all, we should understand the reason for the significance. from our heart. And secondly, the ethical issue. So these are the different issues, but I wanted to spend more time with you and learn more. Hopefully in near future, we will have more presentation. Thank you, Professor Utpal De, for inviting me. It was a fascinating experience for this kind of presentation and make comment about this thing. And I think I will share some of your result with my graduate students in my advanced econometrics class because these are very important issues we face all the time. So thank you very much.
So
Thank you very much.
yes, any response you want to give?
Yeah, please, Professor.
I thank Professor Goswami for such a discussion, and also I thank you. But I have a comment to make that I think you have mistook my Simpson's paradox example. You go through this and you will see that, I mean, if hospital was better in first case, and in the second case, when we take male and female, in both the cases, hospital B will be better, or maybe the opposite, okay? So, I mean, if you see my example again, you will understand that it is a paradox. It is not because I am taking male, we are getting one result, we are taking for female another result. For male and female, we are getting the same result, but opposite to that of the earlier one, okay? So that is the paradox.
Yeah. That I. So thanks a lot to both of you, and also to inform. Just a few years back, just I was participating in a PhD pre-submission. So how this type of relational things people commonly think, and they think that very big work they are doing. So there are three variables like where A is equal to B plus C, it comes. Suppose a company earns some profit, some is undistributed profit that is reinvested, and some portion is distributed among the shareholders. So naturally, profit will be a C plus D or A is equal to B plus C, like that. And when undistributed profit is more, reinvestment is more, that means it regenerates employment and more outcome. So again, more profit generated. So the person is regressing over time, data A with B. When A is equal to B plus C, you run A on B, it will be 100%. So see, 90, maybe for fraction or data 0.00. Sir, R square became 99%. A very good result. Theoretical analysis. Bagwas is a research karne ka jarurat hai. Do you need to do research for this? For running regression. You throw this fast. So they feel angry. No, it's a very good research. Oh my God. So similarly, that sample size thing. That when I just gone to Tripura for my first service, and one maid servant was working in my house. So one day morning walk, I saw that she was going while smoking. So then I asked my fellow, another person was staying with me. I said, does our maid servant smoke? Why? Because every day I do not see one of my matchbox. So it is taken out. So taken away means something, and I noticed today. Then another day I saw that another house's maid servant, while walking, she returning from work, so she was smoking. Then I concluded that here all the maid servants smoke. Then my friend started abusing me. Are you abusing here the ladies that all they smoke? You took data only 2 or 3. You count all the 100 maid servants in the area. So if you increase to 5, then you may find 4 smoke, then 5th one not, so it becomes 80%. If you increase to 20, ultimately it may be 10, it will become 50%. So when you survey the whole, it may be different results. So those type of things. And you're that great example that even in story of Gopal Bharat in TV serial they use. They every day if you give double, yesterday 1, so today 2, next day 4, next day 8. So one day the king will surrender that I cannot pay you, please forgive me. Like that. So these are small things, but very intuitive and very interesting also. In practical field, we face in day-to-day life also, unknowingly. So now I invite Dr. Simi. Please give your comment or any question if you have. Dr. Simi Mehta. Dr. Arjun.
Yes.
What happened?
Sir, yes, Soma
yeah.
has asked 2 questions. I have sent you.
Yeah, please. Please you tell directly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just a second, sir. So one is that problematic representation
Okay.
of data to deny a problem is also a fact. We are also aware of the structural issues related to reporting and recording of rape cases. Is it highly problematic to use or a table to say it's not such a problem as elsewhere? Sir, in doing so, don't you commit the same error? By your argument, do we wait for a higher rape rate to attend to problem? Hugely problematic use of data by posting it against population figures. Anywhere we wish to ignore a problem, such representation are made. These issues, as sir also used this example. Professor Pal, would you like to respond to this, any of these?
Hello.
Yeah,
You unmute.
Yes.
Unmute, please. You are muted. Please unmute.
I do not know whether I have understood your question. You are talking about the total, I mean, the absolute figure and the ratio figures. Is not it? Absolute figures sometimes are useful, but in most of the cases, we should, while comparing, we should take the ratio figures. Okay. So maybe we are referring to the absolute figures and ratio figures. In fact, in politicians do the same thing to impress people by giving absolute figures. Okay. I do not know whether I have understood your question correctly or not. If not, then you can repeat your question.
No, sir, that question came in Facebook. Soma ma'am has asked, but yes, that was the thing of the absolute and the ratio numbers. Right. So, Utpal sir, do you have to add any more of the question?
Carry on.
Utpal sir?
No, I have nothing.
Carry on.
Just other panelist, Dr. Simi, where is she?
Simi, I don't know, some connection issue.
Okay.
No problem. Okay. So, sir, we can also move to, it's already 5:30. And
yeah. Any other participant, if I want to ask any question,
okay,
just ask. Professor Mohannan is there, I see. The only wrote here is a very good topic like that. PC Mohannan may like to ask something, no? Or no? So we should conclude here.
Yes, so we can move forward to the way forward round.
Okay. No, he's there. You can ask him. Just now you sum up, otherwise. Okay?
Yes.
Please unmute yourself.
Okay. So I only mentioned I found this Arjun and Simi, they select very useful, very interesting topic. This I think is one of the most relevant topic now, because everywhere we find people talking only on data. Whether it is information, what is being discussed, almost 24 hours we hear everything relating to data only. And in fact, I was very recently just finished reading a book by Tim Harford, who speaks on BBC, more or less one show. And that book is titled How to Make the World Add Up. It discusses a lot of very interesting things about how we should try to understand the truth behind the numbers and how to we look at that. And some of the things, Professor Paul, whom I know for a very, very long time and very happy to see him here today, he has brought out some of the things that very rarely we look into the data, the behind the data. We look at the numbers and straight away go for the conclusions. Especially now we have all this technology, all the techniques on analyzing big data, where instead of small samples, you have millions of observations. But very rarely people pause to look at how these observations are generated in the first place. So I think you have selected a very interesting topic, Arjun, this time. That almost everybody who looks at or is interested in data should pay much more attention to the data, how the data is generated, how to interpret the data, what is missing. Especially most of the data we have something or other missing. Many times we have the data, but it doesn't cover the whole population, and people go on talking. And then beautiful models are fitted with the data. And I think all of us remember now, last year when the coronavirus started, we had an excellent model prepared by the NEHU, which said that by June 16th, the number of new corona cases would become 0. And all of us have seen the graph at that time in the papers, where a very beautiful model showed that the graph touching the x-axis and coming down. So all of us are very happy to see that by June 16th, we'll have 0 cases coming up. But all of us know that it is almost a year now and where we are. So the issue is not with the models and all that. Most of the time, the issues are with the data. And I'm very happy that you got the right person who has been teaching statistics for a long time to speak to us about some of the pitfalls in this. Please continue, Arjun, on similar topics, which is of a lot of current interest to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just remember a famous quotation which says that all models are wrong, but some models are useful. Because models are approximation of the reality, and it has to be wrong somewhere. But some of the models should be useful if it is very near to the reality.
True.
If there is no more question, then I can.
I had one question regarding regarding the election statistics which is coming. We know exit polls, pre-polls, and not one, two, more than dozen of agencies now are coming with exit polls, and their sample is, I would say, 1.5 times than the NSS figure. They are covering 7 to 10 lakh of the population or the voters. What do you think about those results? Because that is coming in real time, and we are not able to use our official statistics or even our MIS data for the welfare purposes. So how do you see this new big data coming in and this intelligence coming in, and also the use of social media and these data coming in to influence the perception and other things?
First of all, one has to see whether those are random samples. Okay. I mean, I just gave an example of this Genalpha area where there are too many sheikhs. Now, if they choose the sample accordingly, that whoever they get in front of them, I mean, they visit some convenient areas and ask people whoever comes near to them, then it is not a random sample. But sometimes what happens, these predictions come true because the sample size is large enough. Okay. If the sample size is not large enough, there will be very much fluctuation because these are usually these are not random samples. Okay. But if sample size is large enough, then maybe I mean, in many of the cases you will get good predictions. But I mean, what shall we do by predictions? I mean, by predictions, it means like looking at our lucks. Okay, luck. It is something like astrology. So whether you believe in astrology or not, I do not know. But this prediction has some scientific basis. Astrology doesn't have any scientific basis anyway. But one has to go through all the steps of statistics. I mean, the random sample should be drawn, and then proper estimation procedure should be carried out. Only then one can say that the estimates will be correct. Thank you.
Not, here I have a point that not only the sample units, the choice of the sample units, selection, that is by random, non-random, throwing of question also. Because if they know that they are that still suppose some political parties are there who is in the sitting position and some leaders are around, and if the respondent knows that whatever response I will give, it will be communicated, so next day I may be beaten. So if the question given, who has the chance to win this time, A, B or C? So who is in the power in the locality? Better to say A. Or I have no idea much. But if he knows that the wave is much, the so much of wave that there is a turnaround, 70% chance, then they may boldly say, no, I think that B will win. But if B does not win, and I predicted, that means my intention is to vote for A, then later on I will get the, so better not to say. So how the questions will be thrown in an indirect manner with some examples, and from there one has to analyze back. That is a backward method. Then only I think some possibilities of correctness. Even if you know that your friend is losing, still you don't want to displease, because your friend may beat at night, sending some gunda. So these things also will be there, knowingly, unknowingly. So some biasness automatically come. Something will come. Okay, Arjun, please conclude.
One more question. Many questions have come, but mostly this question is about the measurement only, the statistics. And I would put it very differently, because we are also changing decade. So as we know that the census is happening all over the world, which happens in a decade. In India also, we have deferred that. In United States, they have taken the approach of online. China also has deferred. Similarly, in Europe also. So, sir, what do you think? And many of them are doing the digital census now. And given so many of the developed countries are given cash assistance, UBI, universal basic income transfer and all that. So, sir, how do you see that going forward? Do we also complement or supplement our censuses with, let us say, intersensational surveys? Monan sir is also have highlighted that for other statistics, for like example, employment or migration, those are very dynamic. How do we foresee our statistical system to cover our very primary and basic statistics such as population and others, especially given this pandemic situation? Praspal, do you have any comment over that?
Whether we want or not, the world is going towards digitalization. Ultimately, some time will come when almost everything will be digitalized. But at present, just 1 minute. At present, however, India has not in the situation for the digitalization. Maybe we'll need some more time for digitalization. First of all, while collecting data from person, if you do not visit them, then it is almost impossible, because many of the persons do not have email or account, bank account or anything. Okay, so how will you get data? I mean, without visiting the person. So unless you provide this facility to everybody, every family, it is almost impossible to take digital data. Okay, we collect digital data information. So I think we should wait for some more time, but we should also try towards digitalization, because ultimately what I remember about 30 years back, one of my professor, Professor Jogobroto Rai, told me that after some days there will be no pen and papers. I was very much surprised. I mean, how is it possible without pen and papers? How what can be done? Now it is. We are seeing that it is becoming true day by day. I mean, we are doing all paperless work. In fact, the seminar that I am giving is also a paperless thing. Okay, thank you very much. And
Okay.
I thank
please give vote of thanks, Dr. Arjun.
Okay.
Please give vote of thanks.
Yes. So thank you. But I would also ask Professor Utpal Day and also Professor Gour to and also Professor Pal to give any way forward words toward this topic. One minute. We can start with Professor Gour.
Gour Babu.
Yes. Professor
Please.
Goswami.
Yeah. So I think it was a very interesting arrangement, and I think we should study and conduct our research in this dimension, as Professor Pal and other participants said, because of big data, artificial intelligence, or online things, everything is changing. Statistical analysis is also changing. Technology is changing. Professor Pal has rightly mentioned that we are living in a paperless, almost paperless world through the last more than 1 year time during the COVID-19. And I think we can arrange more and more seminar like this in future so that we can share our own experience in our area of research. And we can focus more on, especially on abuse part and also the use part, both, not just only use or abuse. Because if we just analyze use, but if we do not understand abuses, then we may be wrongly directing our students, correct, in conducting the right research. And I think we should also focus more on the current volume of publication that is going on in the whole world due to big data and access to technology, how we can materialize our statistical knowledge in the current development, especially whether the due to this kind of artificial intelligence and machine learning, whether the statistical model that we have learned so far is becoming redundant, and what can we do to keep our own job, and what kind of technology we should adopt in our learning. So these could be areas where we can focus in our future presentation. But it was a good one. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you, sir. Professor Day, over to you. But I also have one question to ask you, Professor Day, because nowadays statistics, as we know, is also about softwares. So especially for the younger generation, as we see, so more than Excel, now people are moving to e-views, data, now R all the time, R software. So sir, how do you see the access to, I would say, these softwares, because that is very easy also to compute. And as Professor Goswami was saying that he was waiting for one result to come in. And we know in natural science and in science that they keep on doing experiment every day. And for us, you know, and we have software now, it takes 2 minutes, 5 minutes to get the results. Comprehending and analyzing takes some time. So Professor Day, how do you see this change? Economics. Yes.
Yeah. Use of software has given facilities to get the quick result. Some people, without knowing or having much depth of the knowledge of the underpinning relations, methodologies, how it works, how the relations operate. So so still they are able to do some research using some data, who does not have that much knowledge of econometrics or the statistics. But the problem happens in case of the interpreting the result, because unless they know the theory in depth, so this is the positive. Suppose a co-integration one does, but whether it's a long run relation, short run relation, what does this long run equilibrium mean? Whether when that error correction value is negative or less than 1 negative percentage point, minus 0.5 or 6, that means that the correction is being made and it is approaching towards equilibrium. Why it is approaching? So that whole mechanism or the theory behind it, So we see that some superficial knowledge people have, and they think that they are working very big. It happens many a times. So that part is missing. Because of this only, we need software to facilitate and reduce time. But how the software is made, what are the syntaxes used, and so before that, how that earlier you remember that not only views, that when microfit used, there was a big book, and that book on the basis of the basic econometrics book, that from their examples taken, theories are given, and that one converted into the software. So that even if the software in 1 minute you are doing 15 days work, but why it is happening when X, Y, this type of relation you are observing, what does it mean, stationarity, what is this, then only they can interpret better. Otherwise, it will be like that wrong interpretation. As I said in the beginning, that last year was 5,000, this year 11,000. But if you see that 11 years or more data points, like, so there may be a different type of result. So that so fluctuations, unless you can take into account in your modeling all these things, like a simple spline functions, how they do, as we in petrol pricing we use. But the small thing, many of us also ignore, because it's a lucrative, and people like that to use this type of software and this type of results. So it's a big thing. But the fundamental things people forget, and they are learning also, effort also that comes down, because we are getting easily why to read the book. Even if some people are there, they cannot understand, but many are there who can understand if they do. But they become ideal. They don't want to do. That also is there. So one should read the things fundamental first, and then only to reduce their labor, they should use this, because by manually we cannot compute many of this. It is difficult to compute manually a long time. So when we did our research manually, we did many with calculator. So now we know that if these softwares are available, we could do much better analysis. But does not mean that better analysis means that only press the button and whatever result come you write. We have to understand why it is happening. So that is the thing. So these are also another abuses of this part of the research anyway. So thank you very much. Please conclude.
Right. And Professor Pal also mentioned that the basic statistics and using basic thing is also very important. And so now for the field research, especially the use of, as I was saying, for the software part, the R software is used a lot. And for our survey analysis, RCT, randomized controlled trial, there is so much of hype also. And how do we see our experiment? There are so many voices. So Professor Pal, over to you, your concluding words for the way forward towards the state of statistics as you see it, sir. And then we can conclude.
I want to conclude with only one message. That is, if you have more information, you use the information, but use it in an appropriate manner. When you have more information, your model becomes more complicated. So you need more experience to tackle that type of models. But more information is always useful, but you should know how to use that. Okay. Most of us do not know how to use so much information that is around us. And the statisticians also do not know how to use so much information that is available around us. So maybe we will have to choose most appropriate of those informations and use it more appropriately, or do not use the information. But I am in favor of using the information. Whatever information comes into the picture, use it, but use it appropriately. Thank you very much. Thank you, Professor Arjun Kumar, for organizing this session and inviting me.
Thank you. So let me just quickly propose a vote of thanks to for this deliberation on this special lecture on uses and abuse of statistics by Professor Manoranjan Pal, and also thankful to Professor Day and Professor Goswami for being here, and also thanks to our advisor PC Mohan sir for encouraging us. And we are so grateful to learn from all of you on this very pertinent topic, and we hope that in future we will learn more from you, and move forward towards having such deliberations so that we all can learn for useful use of statistics. Thank you, everyone, and have a nice evening.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you, Principal. Thank you.